Jolly, jovial, and benefic Jupiter, the greater benefic who brings wisdom, prosperity, abundance, growth, expansion, goodness, even faith and optimism, moves into the sign of Gemini, coming up on the 25th of May through to next June the 9th. And this is an exceptional time because you only live through this transit of Jupiter for 1 year through this whole sign house in your natal sky once every 12 years. So for 12 months and 12 years, you get this experience, and we're going to break it down because it's very fascinating to see how he's not only powered up by Pluto moving through Aquarius, which is a whole new energy for a first in a lifetime vibration, but also how Mercury, the Lord of the sign of Gemini, impacts you based on the year ahead in terms of his cooperation with Jupiter, who's visiting the Gemini house of Lord Mercury. So Mercury plays a big role in this year ahead. Now, this is my 2.0 or second video on the transit of Jupiter through the sign of Gemini. Go look at the other version of this video. I'll pin it to the comments and in the comments in the description box below. I cover content there that I will not do again here. So we're going to delineate today the role of Mercury in what is his elemental fire year, where he spends 6 whole months basically in the fire signs of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius during a period of time when we have Jupiter moving through the sign of Gemini, Mercury's kingdom. It's pretty fascinating stuff. I'll give you a tip here. Here are the signs that are going to most directly benefit from Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. This is true every time this happens, by the way. So before I give you the top 7 signs that benefit the most or have the most impact from this Jupiter storyline, let me remind you of the dates that this has happened before. Now, for simplicity's sake, and I tried to do this last time, maybe you might want to screenshot what I'm holding up here, okay? Just as a thought, maybe you could put this Lori's bad, oops, I don't think you can see anything, Lori's bad handwriting into a screenshot or something like that. I guess I could have typed this up and gone over to a screenshot, right? But you get the gist, and I'll read that to you, okay? April the 22nd of 1965 to May the 5th of 1966. August the 23rd of 1976 to August the 20th of 1977. July 21st of 1988 to July 30th of 1989, June the 30th of 2000 to July the 12th of 2001, and June 11th of 2012 to June 25th of 2013. Again, June 11th of 2012 to June 25th of 2013. One more time, if you didn't have a chance to do a quickie screenshot. Wait. There we go. Okay. Let's hope that's, oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, why am I doing that? Just in case you want this like data handy on your desktop. Now, the deal with this is that Jupiter in Gemini is in a sign of his detriment or otherwise exile. His home kingdom is Sagittarius and Pisces, 2 kingdoms in the ancient tradition that belong to him. And when he's in the sign of Gemini, he's in the sign opposite or exiled or 180 degrees away from Sagittarius. So this impacts his temperament here. There's a lot of debate in astrology about how bad it is when he's here or how good it is. I mean, Mercury rules Gemini, and Gemini can be about the brothers, the neighbors, the immortal twins. And so when, say, Mars goes through Gemini, like it did for 6 months, a couple of years ago, we saw the war, Mars, in the sign of the twins between Russia and Ukraine, neighbors, right? Neighboring countries, brotherly countries, have some ethnic roots that are the same. And of course, we have a Middle East war amongst neighbors and potentially brothers as well, if you want to say that. And all descended from the, or well, any original biblical stories. So the idea here is Jupiter can bring something positive to places of difficulty between the twins, the brothers, but also Gemini has a two-faced quality, a Jekyll and Hyde, a immortal twin narrative, and there's a bit of that energy of division, right? Or 2 things. And Jupiter can expand the 2 things. This is my only concern, is that when it comes to the Gemini thing being the 2 humans, there are not too many human signs in the zodiac, in case you didn't know that. So you have the centaur, the double-bodied sign, like Sagittarius, right? A horse's body and a man on the top. You got Virgo, which is a virgin, archetypal female virgin. You've got the twins of Gemini, and you've got, well, we're talking double body, but we're talking about human forms. So signs with human forms are rare. And when planets go through signs with human forms, partly human forms or human forms, such as Sagittarius, such as Aquarius has a water bearer that looks like a human angel, that kind of thing. Mercury sign of Gemini has the twins, but human forms, you're going to see things happening in the human world. People are going to be impacted directly. So it's a thought, right? It's a thought that this is going to impact the world at the level of people, but also information, also communication, and also ideas. And there's an ongoing Pluto trine, and that also makes it very different, completely different than what we saw happening back in 65, 76, 88, 2000, 2012. Completely different for the simple reason we have a Pluto whole sign trine to the Jupiter story, and it's definitely something new for the world. It's definitely something we haven't felt before, and it opens with that trine. As soon as Jupiter enters into the sign of Gemini, he's going to start flowing back to Pluto, who is retrograding at 1 degree of the sign of Aquarius. And you're going to feel the energy right away of what over the next 20 years we'll feel with Pluto and Aquarius, but also twice in that 20-year period with Jupiter cooperating from the sign of Gemini in an air trine flow. So, I mean, AI, massive developments in technology and information systems, big blow up changes in religious philosophy, or maybe the divisions of religious philosophies among the brothers and neighbors, that maybe Jupiter in Gemini can actually blow them up as well. We shall see. Now, we're going to break it down today. And what I really want to talk about here is I want to talk about how if you are the signs of, drumroll please, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Sagittarius, Pisces, Aries, you are getting the most out of this transit every single 12 years, because as Mercury, the Lord of the sign of Gemini, transits the heavens over the course of a year, he comes into conjunction, sextile, square, trine, and opposition to whatever Jupiter is doing in his home kingdom. And those signs that I just mentioned, that I just said, I'll say it again, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Libra, especially Sagittarius, because it's an elemental fire year with a transit of Mercury with 3 oppositions to Jupiter this fall. I'll get to that. Whew, Sagittarius, hang on, buckle up, and cling tight. Pisces and Aries. Now, that does not mean that everybody else gets nothing out of this. Of course not. I'll be talking about that for your sign as we go through each sign. Today's video will not include mundane astrology. That's where I talk about world events. I know a lot of you love world events. I might do a cursory 5 or 6 lines on it, and that's all. This video is really focused on how to interpret the goodness of Jupiter, the fairy godfather, as he moves through Gemini in the year ahead. And you want to use it or lose it, because you've got that Plutonian backup energy from Pluto that has yet to become available to us ever, any of us who are alive today, for we last felt that Jupiter-Pluto trine energy in the 1800s. And so it is fresh and new and feels different than what happened in the years that I gave you earlier in the old screenshot cheat sheet here. Alrighty, so let's get going and start with the Aries, and I'm going to show you the chart. All right, let's take a look together at the sky, and then we'll roll into the all signs video. If you're new to my channel, I think I forgot to introduce myself. And I'm Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac and the whole sign house system. Fixed stars and minor asteroids are part of almost every video I do. And I would encourage you to give me a try, because I put out about, 20, 30 videos every month, and they all have all signs elements to them. Also, if you like mundane astrology, which is where I talk about world events, almost every video will start off with 10 to 15 minutes of world events, but you can always jump ahead using the timestamps in the comments or the chapters by hitting the title of the video, which will direct you to links to click you straight through to the sign you wish to listen to. Best to listen to this for your rising sign, probably most accurate. Then you can listen for your sun sign for career matters, and maybe purpose matters and father figures, and the moon for mother figures, your body, your home, like literally where you live, the nest. Okay, elements like that can be transcribed into the sun and moon. And the other thing I'd like to say is I'm recording this today on May the 16th for my Patreon community. They get a little bit of early access ad-free on this. I think this video goes up 2 days later on YouTube. So know that it is available earlier with no ads, and you get all kinds of perks, including Zoom calls with me when you're part of my Patreon community. Indeed, I'll be doing a Zoom call class on the Venus Star Point shortly after this video is recorded. Now, well, let's see. What do I want to say? I want to say that the algorithm has been really punitive towards me lately, so please hit the like button after really boosting me last month. I think it's somehow pissed off at my mundane content, which talks about the very difficult circumstances in a war right now in the part of the world I shall not name. I'm doing a little test of algorithmic debunking. I want to see if I don't mention one word about the situation in the world, that this video doesn't get any suppression. So let's see what happens now. Oh, I think I said the bad G word in a video like two back, and the bot caught it. And, I shouldn't have said the word that starts with G and ends in E. So unfortunately, I used that word. Okay, now, I'm guessing, but I think that's part of the problem. So here we have Aries. For the world, just know this. What does Gemini represent? As I said, twins, the mortal, immortal, Castor and Pollux, neighbors, brothers, two human forms, right? And so it's division, it's two, it's dichotomy, it's polarity. Mercury is known for his fickleness, his on and off button, his two-faced qualities on the darker side of Mercury Gemini energy, for example. One of the other things I say is that Mercury is definitely information, and it definitely could be all about some new information, stories bigger than life, larger than life, blowing up with Jupiter, who expands everything like a gas giant. And also the United States of America is a Gemini house, as well as the leader of the nation of Israel and Joe, the current leader of the United States, both have Sagittarius rising, which means, as well as the United States chart, all three of those people, US, those two world leaders, Gemini represents the house of the adversary, or the visible open enemy for each of those people and that country, the country of the United States. And so there's a lot going on in an election year with Jupiter expanding the open enemy of the president of the United States, which of course he would perceive as Donald Trump in a competition to win an election. So this does not bode well, obviously, because whoever is the competitor, whoever stands in the place of Biden, is going to be very strong with Jupiter in his house of open enemies. Same goes for the United States Sibley chart, because open enemies would be perhaps countries that they don't prefer. You guys who know them, starts with an R, starts with an I, for example, starts with a C. Yes, I'm trying my best not to trigger the algorithm. And just before I do, I'm just going to grab a glass of water, and we're starting with you, Aries. Oh my God. As I said, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Sag, Pisces, and Aries, you are having the most intense energy from this sky in this year ahead. Oh, it is intense. Okay, guys. So Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. I want you to think about it this way. This is a Mercury elemental fire year. Indeed, into next spring through April and May as well. We're going to see that Mercury spends almost 2 months in the sign of Aries, almost 2 months in the sign of Leo this year. Last spring, like April behind us, and then Leo, and then Sagittarius in the fall, and then again next spring, April, May, a lot of time in Aries. So this extended stay in the fire signs is because, as Gary Caton, the expert on the Mercury story, and listen to my video with him in my 2024 Big Transits playlist, he literally talks about it in depth. Mercury has not since 2017 spent the retrograde time in the fire signs like this. And so this is like a story that we haven't seen since 2017. And so it's got the feeling of being back in time. And that means Mercury's doing a lot of work in the element of fire, the trigon of fire. And so for you, Aries, you've got that in the backdrop, as do the Leos and Sagittariuses this year. Now we've got Lord Jupiter moving into your third house, and your third house is a very busy place on the best of circumstances, because it's your everyday life. Going to the store, going to the bank, going to the gas station, the everyday places you go, all the places you go in your neighborhood, your neighbors, your siblings, people close at hand. Extended family like cousins and aunts and uncles, because it used to be that way. We used to live close to our kin. Our neighbors and our kin were one and the same. So your local environment, and having Jupiter expanding that and making it even more active is one interpretation. Or he could grow you a larger neighborhood or a larger basket of neighborhood associations and and things that you do in the local area. In our modern world, we have something called a virtual neighborhood, which is formed by the fact that we can have virtual communities and we have the online space. And so social media becomes a type of neighborhood experience. And that tends to be my experience here when Jupiter is in the third house. He'll expand that part of your life, greater social media exposure, for example. So if you are an Aries sun, moon, or rising, expect all of that to quite expand, including opportunities for teaching and learning, including opportunities for traveling, especially short distances, or marketing, selling, and writing, and other element of the communications-rich third house. And synchronicities can be here, the house of the goddess, the way to understand the nature of reality through signs, omens, and portents. And that can also definitely increase because this is Mercury's house, and he is indeed the messenger of the gods. Well, as he's moving through Jupiter, this part of your sky, right? And he's here, as I said, from the 25th of May through to June 9th of next year. He's going to be talking with or conversing with Mercury on the regular. Now, Mercury will be moving around the heavens, going through all of the signs, and therefore making contact with Jupiter from all of the signs, except the signs that get the most impact are the ones that are not in aversion to Lord Jupiter. And you are one of the ones who indeed are in a sextile relationship, only 2 houses away or 60 degrees from where Jupiter is traveling. Now, this is indicating to me that you're going to find that when Mercury himself is in your sign, wandering through Aries in a whole sign and then exact sextile to Jupiter, this is where you kind of can stick the landing on this transit and what it's really for. Because Jupiter has to take orders from Mercury. Mercury is the boss of the house, and Jupiter must heed the boss of the house. So, for example, when is this happening in your sky? What do you want to take, note of? First of all, is as a longer general principle, we're going to see the movement of Mercury through the sign of Aries next spring. And oh dear, I forgot to write your dates down. Let me grab the little stop share screen pause. Maybe it'll let me pause without stopping the share. I have everybody written down, but I forgot to write down next year. Sorry about that. I'll be right back. So next March the 3rd through to May the 10th. Yeah, I know you heard me right. It sounds like a long time. It's because of retrograde. March the 3rd to May the 10th, minus some dips out, Mercury's more or less in your sign. So I want you to know that a lot of what this Jupiter transit is for becomes more available to you next March and April when you see Mercury hanging out quite a bit of time in the sign of Aries, your sign. But it is on the exact date of May the 5th that Mercury will sextile Jupiter at 22 degrees of the sign of Aries and 22 degrees of the sign of Gemini. At this point, Jupiter is in direct motion. So I want you to think about the long game here. In essence, what you're being taught as Jupiter moves through your third house are all those third house lessons for growth, wisdom, expansion, and hope and faith. And if you want to write or you're a writer, this is ideal for exceptional writing, expansion, and luck. If you want to do short distance travel, increase your friends and friendships in the neighborhood, have positive and beneficial relationships with your extended family and siblings. All of that stuff is bounteous, fruitful, and hopeful. Yes, Jupiter is in a sign of his detriment. Yes, he can be under the weather here. But when Lord Mercury flows to him from your sign in the end of next year, you have nothing to complain about because now everything lines up the way you want in a very lucky sextile. So that is what you have to look forward to. Every single sign is going to go through the difficult period of time where we find Mercury in Sagittarius, and those dates are November the 2nd to January the 8th. And from November the 2nd to January the 8th, in essence, there's a lot of Mercury opposite Jupiter going on in the sky. But Mercury is in Jupiter's sign, and Jupiter is in Mercury's sign, and that is called a mutual reception. So while you will have that turbulence of all kinds of sort of weird, disruptive, discombobulated stuff to do with third and ninth house matters. For example, visas, passport issues, travel, short and long distance, educational issues. It also can be quite good because, for example, a writing project in a book publishing house. Those are stories of 3-9, traveling and going to school, applying for a university, studying online, teaching online, teaching abroad, winning in a court case, benefits from and luck from an elder sibling, a younger sibling. These kinds of stories may be playing out in the third house, ninth house axis between November 2nd and January the 8th. And it is a little bit awkward, but it's not the end of the world. That mutual reception saves the day, in my humble opinion, because they're in each other's sign and they must have a hotline to each other. And the pinnacle experience where things feel exceptionally yay is definitely that sweet sextile from the transit of Mercury in the house of you. In essence, you're making decisions, you're thinking of ideas, you're communicating super effectively in order to bring greater bounty to your reality during that time. And let's not forget as well that you will have Pluto moving through Aquarius during that window of time that I've mentioned to you, May the 5th. And that also strengthens this entire story, because Pluto moving through Aquarius is in a whole sign flow to Jupiter, and Pluto power and Jupiter power together is extremely prosperous and exceptionally powerful. So we like this story for you. I'd say if you have a book in you, get writing it. If you want to teach, start teaching. If you want to learn, start learning. If you want to remediate difficult sibling narratives and fix a broken sibling relationship, mend the brothers that are broken or sisters, time to do it. If you also have had any kind of situation where you have online presence, social media presence, and social media livelihood, especially, that is growing and expanding as well. So that's your window of time. I haven't queued the chart, all right, all the way to May the 5th already. I didn't bother to do that. Maybe because I'm not thinking of how am I going to do this, but maybe I can do that for every sign. I can just jump us to the exact moment of this thing that's going on for you roughly. And, you'll see an actual literal sky of that time. And let's take out the midheaven that was there for a former client that a client I just saw before you guys. So we don't want the midheaven and IC because you can't do that for general astrology, just in case you didn't know. Let's simplify it. Okay. There we go. So let's move on to Taurus. But any last thoughts I have for you? This is the sky that I was raving about. If you're an Aries rising, I need to put you back in the picture. This is going to be more awkward than I thought to start trying to navigate the chart like this, but let's see if I can do it. All right. So there's your super sweet March 6th, kind of March 3rd event where you see Mercury sitting, hang on. Did I say March? I mean May. May, 1, 2. Oh, this is going to be too awkward. Sorry about that, guys. I mean, literally, for me to try changing every sign to show you exactly your peak date, it's going to be hard as fuck. Anyway, this is May. Okay, so May the 5th. So we're close enough. May the 6th. Mercury at 23 degrees of Aries, Jupiter at 22. So it's around the 4th, 5th, and 6th of May that Mercury and Jupiter are in a beautiful sextile. And this is, again, just fortifying the elemental fire year that Mercury is in charge of this year, impacting you extremely powerfully, both in 2024 and in the spring of 25. Anything else I want to tell you about this picture? Because I'm here now, right? And, it's kind of leading with Mercury here to also a participation in the profound healing of a chironic wound around your identity, whether it's how you look, how you feel about yourself, your mental wellness, your sense of identity has been somewhat discombobulated or wounded ever since 2019 when Chiron entered here, and with the eclipses and with such matters as a sextile from Jupiter to Chiron Mercury coming up next May, there is a profound potential for healing some identity crisis. And I'd love that you have soulmate Neptune and Venus together as well at 0 degrees of Aries, giving you even more of a sort of splash of divine juice, kind of a mystical and spiritual overlap to this time frame of your life as well. Moving on to the next sign. And we're going to talk about the Tauruses. So just try not to pay attention to what dates we're on at all times, because unfortunately, that's not the point. The point is, where does Jupiter travel in your life from the dates we started off with, May the 25th to June the 9th, replicating his journey, as I mentioned in the beginning, compare notes from June of 2012 to June of 2013, or June of 2000 to July of 2001. And you can go back and get the other dates at the beginning of this video. Because even though everything is different every time, especially with Pluto now in Aquarius at the top of the sky in your chart, you still have Jupiter handling the details of your second house of money, possessions, savings, resources, the things you need to survive. It's a house of your life. I think it was Adam Ellenbus recently talked about it being the house of bios, which means life, like biology. And it is, because it's like the spoon that feeds the first house. Food, shelter, water, safety needs, resources, money, savings, earnings, the kind of stuff you need in order to be alive in the game of life come from the second house. It doesn't matter how much luck you have in other money houses, such as 5, 8, and 11. If this house is in rough shape in your chart, you got to fix it at the root problem, which is the second house. I do a reading I used to do called The Money Code, and a class that explains what I'm talking about here. So Jupiter is healing. No, Jupiter is bountifully blessing you in your money and earnings, possessions, and resources over the next year. This is, I find, a seed planting period of time. Having looked at my own chart and the charts of many clients over the years, what I have noticed is that Jupiter is planting opportunity seeds that are golden, that will sprout and grow when he leaves your second house and moves into the third house. And that makes sense at a very deep level, because when Jupiter's moving through any house, right? Any house, the house one over are the gains from that house. So like if you're going to sell a home, the fourth house could be the house of the home, and the fifth house is the gains from the sale of the home. So the gains from Jupiter's blessings of your earnings, savings, resources house most often, more typically manifest when he moves through the sign over, which is Cancer, which will be next June the 10th, 2025 out of year. So don't be impatient with this transit. Now, Jupiter can expand your dietary pleasures, the way you eat, what you want to eat. He can make you more grandiloquent and magnanimous in the way you speak. He could have you be very lucky with money issues. And just know that people born with Jupiter in the second house tend to have an incredible Hail Mary pass. They actually never go broke or destitute. It literally, Jupiter saves the day, even when things are down, even when Jupiter is in his detriment in Gemini. Jupiter here might spend a bit more money than you want to. You might feel a little less comfortable as more expenditures, spending of money, because Jupiter expands things and resources can go out a little bit here. But still, it's still Jupiter, and he is still a benefic Santa Claus. So some significant new seeds of prosperity are being planted in your second house. And with this whole sign trine to Pluto during this transit, there is a lot of energy that suggests to me that some of this bounty comes through your work direction. Now, in September, October, November, when Pluto goes into your ninth house, that's not so much the case. Then there's another narrative going on, but it is, for the most part, a whole sign trine to Pluto, indicating money coming from career and reputation matters, or father figures, another meaning of the 10th house. Now, Pluto up there can also mean the passing of a father figure during the transit of Jupiter through the second house, because he flows to the fourth house of family wealth, and he activates the 8th house of chunky money and sometimes inheritance monies. So I mentioned in the beginning that every sign is going to have a particular yay you moment when things look really good, because you get the Mercury story chiming in when Mercury wants to bless the narrative. You are one of the signs that doesn't have a direct Mercury and Taurus narrative connected to Jupiter, because those are planets in a semi-sextile, or what we call an aversion. So we will not be talking today about Mercury in your sign blessing you as he talks with Jupiter, because that is not going to happen. But like every sign, you're going to go through this time of the mutual reception between Jupiter and Mercury, as Mercury transits through Sagittarius between November the 2nd and January the 8th, because of a retrogradation. And on November 17th and on December 4th and on December 26th this year, direct motion, retrograde motion, direct motion, Mercury and Sag will become directly opposite Jupiter in his home kingdom of Gemini. These are happening at 18 degrees, then retrograde at 16 degrees, and then direct at 13. Therefore, if you have any second house planetary placements at the degrees of 18, 16, or 13, or close enough to, within 3 degrees of it, Jupiter will activate that planet and that planet's story will become immersed in what is going on during the entire time that this transit, November 2nd to January 8th, takes place, in which Jupiter is in the house of Mercury. Mercury will be in the house of Jupiter, and they will have a hotline to each other, like two presidents with a hotline, so nobody hits the nuke button. And what could it be? It's money. It's all about money. Eighth house money is your spouse's money, inheritance money, bank loans, mortgages, investment monies, monies from credit card companies, monies from insurance payouts. It's money. It comes in a chunk, a sign-on package, severance package, performance bonuses, that kind of money. So expect some prosperity stories to begin emerging for you there for November 2nd to January the 8th as a result of that longer transit of Mercury in the 8th house. And because Mercury in the 8th house will be talking with Pluto in your 10th house, creating a wedge, it could also look like money, prosperity from career or father figure narratives in your life, whether that father figure is your dad, your granddad, a boss, or even your spouse, who knows, right? But that looks like a good money narrative for you, Taurus. So you can look forward to that and be patient with this transit. As I mentioned, it is a transit that takes sometimes the most juice becomes visible after the transit happens, where all the benefits become more obvious to you, more tangible, more prosperity in your hands. I can attest to this story. Back in the day, I had this transit going through my second house, and it was the first time I taught the Sky Reader class and began teaching online courses in astrology that were longer than a 1-hour webinar. And it was the beginning of a seed planting around longer term courses that became quite prosperous in my astrology business. But I didn't know when the first time I taught it that it would be a very important part of my prosperity cycle, or the way I would make money. And now, since that has already happened to me a couple of years back, or 3 years back, I'm trying to remember when that was happening, 2021, I recognize hindsight is 2020, and I got the greater gains from the golden seeds later. And you might get the greater gains from the golden eggs that are deposited by Jupiter, but may hatch into prosperity more effectively sometime later in the story as Jupiter goes into your third house next June the 9th, plus one more year in your third house. Hopefully, anyway. Okay, we're going to keep moving on to the next narrative, which is going to be Gemini. Now, Gemini, you might remember that I started this video by mentioning that there are certain signs that we're going to benefit the most from Jupiter in Gemini. Oh, obviously it's you, but I mean, it's not because just Jupiter's in Gemini, but the Lord of the house is going to be co-present with Jupiter, and not only once, but twice. Mercury conjuncts Jupiter on June the 4th of 2024. And again, Mercury conjuncts Jupiter in your sign, my dears, on June the 8th, 2025. One at the 29th degree, the very tail end of the sign of Gemini on June the 8th, and at the very beginning at 2 degrees of Gemini on June the 4th. In essence, this is a two-part blessing for you, but it's a whole vibe that as Jupiter enters and as Jupiter leaves, the Lord of the sign of Gemini, your Lord, your planetary ruler, is in impact mode. He's there on the scene. It's literally like having the commander-in-chief on the scene of, some military excursion or something. I don't know why I went to military, some information excursion, Gemini. So first of all, in the sense that you have Lord Mercury witnessing what's happening as this begins and as this finalizes, you do want to say one simple thing, whether it's your sun, which could be career and purpose, or your Gemini moon, which is your home and body, or your Gemini ascendant, which could be all about everything in your life as you view your life from the steering wheel of your life. You're going to feel protected by Mercury. Mercury is the boss of Jupiter, and Mercury is going to keep his hand somewhat on the steering wheel of the reality here so that Jupiter doesn't overinflate too much. You can feel magnanimous, bounteous, prosperous, lucky. You can be leaderful, commanding, generous. You could get girthy, get pregnant, get fat, muscle build. You could increase the size of your body. You could go back and compare notes, of course, to June of 2000 to July of 2001, or June of 2012 to June of 2013, the last time Jupiter went through this part of your sky. What makes this different is Pluto is participating from your ninth house. This is a real powerful whole sign flow where Pluto is powering you up into the bigger question of what's your purpose, what's your dharma, what's your true faith and belief in life, what do you really want to accomplish. It's in alignment with your more spiritual aspirations and goals. But on a very practical note, Jupiter activates Pluto in a college campus, higher education, foreign land, foreign shore, travel, court and legal matters, and book publishing house, where Pluto will travel for the next 20 years. And this is one of 2 times in those 20 years, 2 years in those 20 years, that Jupiter in the house of you really gears up to support this Pluto and Jupiter narrative. I go into more depth in my other video. Check it out. I want to mention as well, we're talking about this for every sign, the exceptional fire, elemental fire year that Mercury is under. We'll stick him in that 7th house from November 2nd to January the 8th, 2024 into 25. Now, it is a positive thing, despite at first glance a challenge. Oppositions are tension, like a tug of war or a teeter-totter. And the opposition can be hard, but the mutual reception can be easy and flowing. By that, as I mentioned in other signs so far, you're going to have Jupiter in Mercury's house and Mercury in Jupiter's house. They're in each other's homes. As I say, if I'm in your home and you're in my home, we kind of hold each other's to account, right? I mean, I'm not going to let your plants die, and you're going to let my pet die. We're going to be cautious and careful and honoring of each other. And in a way, in a mutual reception, we may act a little bit on each other's behalf. Jupiter can be more mercurial and Mercury can be more Jupiterian. That is a thought. So having this story going on between houses 1 and 7, between November 2nd and January the 8th, is about your significant others. Yes, your marriage partners, your long-term committed love partner or partners, things to do with your audience and marketplace. That's the 10th house from your 10th house. This could also be about legal contracts and negotiations as well. Now, a lot of you may be looking at the possibility of selling or moving your home during this later part of the year and into the new year. And that's partly because the South Node in January moves into your 4th house. And now you're focused on the idea of maybe surrendering or releasing home, land, or property. That's a variable that may start to play out between November 2nd and January the 8th. As you get ready to experience this South Node transit. The other thing I want to mention here is that the house of the other person, the 7th house, can also just be a client, right? Or it could be an adversary or a competitor. So there's different ways significant other people emerge in our reality, but you're pretty preoccupied with the other significant other area of the sky, Excuse me, I'm going to go back to November, so we can at least see what I'm talking about. Give me a minute. Okay. And now we go ahead by a month. There's Mercury. Eventually this will work out. You see how awkward it is to actually try to move this chart around like this. Oh my God. All right. So see how Mercury's moving through here in November and there's Jupiter across the way, guys. Okay. That's what we're talking about. So especially with Venus in the 7th house at the beginning of this, there's almost a stamping in the idea of a pleasant or loving, kind relationships, including primary love relationships, including matters to do with client audience outreach, because anytime you see Venus and Mercury together, you have like a total persuader, publicist energy going on in the 7th house of marketing and clients. But the whole long game of November 2nd to January 8th is where Jupiter is working with Mercury to amplify the success of your 7th house. If you're a single Gemini and Jupiter goes through your 1st house, that can expand you to the point where it touches your ascendant and reverbs to your descendant, and you expand into a new relationship. Or if there is a challenging relationship that you're in and it isn't right for you, you shut it down. So a new relationship, one that exists, expands, or you shut it down. I know there's all three, so what does it matter? But it's because Jupiter here is giving you the wisdom and the knowledge to make those kinds of changes, or for those changes to be accomplished in a way that flows with the divine wisdom. Okay. And we're going to also mention that there is a retrograde Jupiter, but we're not going to bother with all the details. There are three touch points. November 17th, where Mercury is in direct motion opposite Jupiter, and then December the 14th, where then it's a retrograde motion, and then it's December the 26th. And those three passes of Mercury to the Jupiter narrative are three parts of one story. It starts to really be obvious to you as you move through those dates of November 17th, December 4th, and December 26th, that all of those dates are trying to bundle one narrative into a story, beginning, middle, and end. The retrograde Mercury starts on November 25th to December 25th. To December 15th. And therefore, from November 25th to December 15th, with Mercury retrograde in your seventh house, opposite Jupiter in your first house, who's also retrograding, there's a lot of back to the past, right? Like there's a lot of people from your past, ex-boyfriends or long-term committed lovers from the past, you being nostalgic about the past, you plumbing prosperity at depth and abundance from relationships from your past. Okay, so there's a lot of the past coming into the present during the Mercury retrograde of November 25th to December 15th. Well, indeed, it is always opposite Lord Jupiter. Mercury is the Lord of your sign. Wherever he goes, you must pay attention. And of course, he's so preoccupied. Legal matters, legal contracts, and negotiations are on the agenda during this longer transit of Mercury here as well, November 2nd through to January the 8th, and you may be legal contracts and signatures to do with property and real estate matters because Mercury is the Lord of your fourth house. And Jupiter is also the Lord of your 10th house. And some of these property matters also could be about career opportunities for some Geminis that involve a location change or a property shift or a home shift for you becoming evident during that window of time. Now, I need some water. I've got allergies. If you're wondering what's going on with me, I'm sniffly, and there's like this pine spruce thing out there. And I was just driving today, and those little helicopter things that come off trees and whirlwind down. And my daughter's doing way worse than me. It's windy today, and the pollen count is so high here. And I normally don't even have a problem. So hang on. I normally don't have a problem with allergies in this time of year as bad as this one. Last year I sailed through it, but holy moly. And so sorry about that, guys. My eyes are dry and itchy and my nose is all sneezy and stuffy. Okay, but the window's open because it's too warm to close it. Moving on to the next sign. Okay, hang on. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. So we have this Jupiter narrative. You saw it last in June of 2000 to July of 2001. You saw it in June of 2012 to June of 2013. This time it's back with a Pluto addition, and it's coming through May 25th of this year to June 9th next year. That is fairy godfather in your 12th house, traveling through your 12th house. And this is a story where you're expanding, growing, amplifying your inner life, maybe learning from a teacher, a spiritual teacher, maybe having prosperous and bounteous financial rewards from people from foreign shores or international and borderless revenue for digital type entrepreneurs. Also opportunities to learn abroad, also opportunities to study and go back to school or spend time in a profoundly engaged learning environment. It will also have you kind of looking for your guru. Are you my guru? Are you my teacher? That kind of thing. And whatever that looks like for you, this is often a very strong guru transit. And you find spiritual wisdom and plentiful joy in your solitude, and being more alone and solitudinous will be very good for you. As Jupiter comes through this part of the sky, of course, he looks for instructions from Lord Mercury, the ruler of your 12th house. And in your story, there are times in which there is some support from Lord Mercury. I started off by saying, which are the signs that get the most juice? Remember that? And I went through them like Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Sag, Pisces, and Aries. You're one of them. Because what is going on here, you're not one of them directly, I apologize, not like that, but you're one of them in another way. There is a wonderful time in which Mercury is going to spend 2 months in your second house of finances. Well, he sextiles Jupiter in your 12th house. This is really powerful for every single Cancer sun, your career, moon, your home or body, and rising, everything about you. When it comes to financial abundance, so I'm going to give you some dates and you can write them down. Particularly July the 2nd to September the 9th, July the 2nd to September the 9th, when we have Mercury spending 2 months in Leo. For that reason, July and August are very important months for you as a Cancer to experience the reaching out from Mercury in your second house over his shoulder to what Jupiter is up to in your 12th. In essence, you will benefit greatly financially during this time, especially with the whole sign Pluto transit through your 8th house of chunky money. So there can be inheritance money and legacy wealth and money from the sale of property coming through your sky in that window of time of July the 12th, 2nd through to September the 9th as well. If you have the desire to quit an addiction or substance abuse of any kind, or anything that you digest or put in your throat, mouth, it is about the second house. Mercury here is doing communications and conversations with Jupiter, allowing for a turnaround narrative in the month of July. Okay, so we can move back to July. Just close your eyes so you guys don't get dizzy, to look at the sky in July. So you'll have a gist of what I'm trying to express to you. So yes, I know that's because we are changing the sky and it's an ordeal, but we'll get right back to your sign. Okay, so be patient. Some of you like the visuals, and I'm just trying to accommodate the astrology learners in the story. So here we have Mercury in your second house. Here we have Jupiter in your 12th house. And it is in this time that Mercury is in a flowing conversation to Jupiter, giving him instructions for how to best provide financial resources, savings, and money from foreign shores, foreign lands, connecting as well to the Pluto story here, flowing here, of some kind of chunky money. And of course, Mercury and Pluto are talking to each other while this engagement is happening. Like all signs, though, we all experiencing the mutual reception period of, and this is what I'm talking about for all signs here, the Mercury story, of Mercury moving through November 2nd, the sign of Sagittarius, and being there until January the 8th in a conversation with Jupiter. Put these dates on your calendar: November 17th, December the 4th, and December 26th, where there are a direct retrograde and direct motion pass of Mercury in Jupiter's sign talking to Jupiter in Mercury's sign. This is going to be exceptionally positive for work opportunities, career opportunities, and rental opportunities, pet opportunities, debt elimination opportunities, and most importantly, eliminating karmic debt situations and self-undoing and addiction situations as well. With Mercury in the 6th house, he's quite the negotiator for work and job opportunities. And of course, you will have the North Node still in your 10th house of career. And expansive work opportunities and career opportunities are engaging you, perhaps really acutely, during November 2nd to January the 8th. And possibly because of the South Node in your 4th house, there is something about maybe negotiating to buy or sell a property, and the elimination of a mortgage or credit debt because of that sale can be possible for any Cancers looking to release a property. Pluto gives you the chunky money. Mercury gives you the debt negotiations, or refinance a property. That's another option here as well. All said and done, by the end of this Jupiter transit through your 12th house, I'm expecting many of you to come through it with the deepest appreciation of the ways in which your spiritual life is in search of you. And the teachers you need will come to you, whether you're learning a skill, like I learned Hellenistic archetypal astrology during a year of a Jupiter transit through my 12th house with Ren Butler. Maybe you'll be doing some longer esoteric learning, but you also may be experiencing this just as a time of spiritual enlivenment and spiritual deepening, especially because Jupiter continually wants to find your guru, if you can find him, while he transits through the 12th house. All right, so Leo, just don't you look at the sky too close at this point. You're one of the signs that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is going to strongly benefit from the Mercury story in relationship to the Jupiter story in 2024-25. Now, first of all, the basics. Jupiter is moving into your 11th house, where he is in the house of his joy. This is a house of good spirit, and it's like it sounds, it's good. It's very much about the first of all, the potential of the feeling of a windfall, of pennies from heaven, the greater rewards and gains of your career, including promotions, raises, and the actual direct result of having a career, which is the earnings of financial success. And that expands for you during this time. But it's also Jupiter repeating a story he's done before. Not only does this expansion in your gains occur yet again, this transit of May the 25th through to June of next year, but it replicates a similar vibe from June of 2000 to July of 2001 and June of 2012 to June of 2013. Yet I remind you that this is also Jupiter in detriment, in exile. There are mitigating circumstances this year, which we'll talk about, but one general meaning of this can be that the expansion could come at a cost of some sort, because Jupiter in the sign of division or twosomes of twins could mean there is some kind of two sides to the story. It is the house of an elder sibling who can benefit you greatly. It is the house of your allies and benefactors and friends who wish to support you and help you. And it is your larger social networks and groups. Those all expand. Okay, those all grow in some way during this time. You may also expand your long-range goals and plans for your life, as this house involves the idea of wishes and wish fulfillment and long-range goals. So keep that in mind as well. Jupiter up here, bountiful, is also very much about a kind of a pure luck when it comes to money matters that are connected to career. So you're lucky in that area during this transit. He's in a whole sign trine to Pluto for the first time in your life, and that's going to give you some power through wealthy clients, customers, significant other relationships coming off of friendship circles that are life-changing and powerful, including romantic ones for single Leos. Jupiter moving through here is also in a connection to Mercury when Mercury is moving through the sign of Leo. And this is going to be exact on July 7th and July the 8th. It's miraculously cued for contact. And as you see, Mercury here is moving into a flowing relationship by June 7th and 8th. It's exact with the sign, with Jupiter at 9 degrees of Gemini. Because you have Mercury in the house of you. Okay, and he's the lord of the house of Jupiter, or Jupiter's traveling. It's a conversation that you're engaging with 11th house people, or it's communications or emails, or it's ideas or negotiations that you are in charge of. You are taking the lead on when it comes to career gains matters, social groups and friendship circles. Possibilities here of colleague and coworker stories, but you are leading the charge for positive directions and outcomes at this time. It's what you want to plan, speak, say, communicate, or negotiate, and Jupiter follows your lead. If I was in this sky and it was my sky and I was going for it here, I'd be saying it's something like Mercury would like to accomplish, perhaps, to expand your 9th house stories, foreign lands, foreign shores, and book publishing and academic environments, because Mercury, of course, is flowing to the North Node and giving Jupiter some instructions. Some of you might want, therefore, in July, to go off to a foreign country, to travel, to move, to engage in longer-term academic studies, to find yourself connected more deeply to a spiritual alignment or spiritual path of wisdom and knowledge. And you are taking charge, and Jupiter is just helping you out. Honestly, some of you could join a church, a religious club, a spiritual institution of some sort. with this kind of transit. For everyone, I'm talking about the same story. November 2nd to January the 8th, there's that mutual reception that's happening through the sky as Mercury travels through Jupiter's Sagittarius house and Jupiter travels through Mercury's Gemini house, making this actually quite positive rather than as negative as you might imagine an opposition to be. Mercury is very busy in the fifth house, and that could be a lot of communications or writing projects or ideas being tossed around for entrepreneurial businesses, for creative projects, for lover contact, like email, phone calls, and text with a romantic partner, or a lot of engagement with your children if you have them. That's very busy. Mercury in the fifth house matters. At the same time, Mercury is having that conversation with Jupiter in his own kingdom, and Jupiter's telling Mercury how to behave in his. And so you have this kind of flow dynamic, November 2nd to January 8th, and specific dates to pay attention to where it's exact: December 17th, December 4th, and December 26th, 3 parts of one story. There can be first engagement with an elder sibling regarding fifth house matters. For example, the fifth house can be speculation, casino wins, money gains from a lottery ticket. And there's a lot of mutual reception between Jupiter, who brings windfalls anyway in the 11th house, and witnesses a house of good fortune across the way. But a lot of contracts, negotiations, conversations around some kind of financial bounty that seems to be entering your life, November 2nd to January the 8th. Or a lot of conversations and social actions amongst your friendship circles regarding pleasurable and enjoyable activities. It can be very mild. Yet at the same time, we can't ignore Pluto, because as Mercury is in the fifth house sextiling Pluto and Jupiter is flowing to Pluto, and Pluto's got a big story to tell in this part of this narrative. And Pluto could be saying something like, Pluto, who's opposite your Leo ascendant on the descendant, maybe saying something like, it's time to really power up in your significant romantic love relationships and to find a more deeper layer of authentic friendship and enjoyment of each other's company. And if there's already a relationship, that the necessity of that will be there. And if there isn't, you may meet somebody new under this intense energy. And if you do, it'll be one of those relationships that is intense, but profoundly life transforming. So new relationships built under this, constructed under this energy, have that temperament for them. All right, we're going to keep on going to the Virgos of the world. So Virgo, sun, moon, and rising, Jupiter enters, of course, into the house. Oh, by the way, like, subscribe if you're in the live premiere, hit the bell for notifications. I'm having an algorithmic, either a subscriber dump in the last 2 videos or a subscriber slow down. I don't know if I should have said a couple of bad words, and I might have got a temporary bot flag. So it's happened a few times before over the course of this channel. And so I encourage you to check to see if you're still subscribed, actually. So go back to June the 30th, 2000 to July 12th of 2001, or trundle back in your memory to June 11th of 2012 to June 25 of 2013. Well, you had that movement of Jupiter in your 10th house of career back then, which expanded your career, made you more lucky in your career, gave you power and authority in your career, maybe had the bosses liking you in your career path. Well, that was happening. You also did not have Pluto power coming off of your 6th house. And this is giving this whole idea of career and work success a whole new standard by which to measure it, especially when it comes to authentic power, transformation, and wealth and achievement. And so keep this in mind as a general theme of this kind of empowerment for all Virgos. At the same time, with Jupiter in the 10th house, the transit is about your reputation, and Jupiter rules children. And so your reputation may be changing in relationship to the word children or in terms of the word wealth. And this is a time where, as a Virgo, Mercury is the Lord of your sign, as you well know, I hope. And Mercury will be in a conversation with Jupiter from the sign that belongs to you exactly on September 20th. Now, that's the exact Mercury square Jupiter from your sign. Let's see if we can move us into September. I know it's discombobulating when I do it, but let's just do it. Let's move us into September 20th. ish. And let's move us back to you and take a look at that sky. So here we have Mercury moving through your sign, and here we have Jupiter here, and there is tension between Mercury and Jupiter. Well, Mercury is the boss of Jupiter. Mercury has the upper hand in so many ways. First of all, in September, around the 20th, I'd say a week before and after, you are making decisions, Mercury, having ideas, communications, phone calls or texts about, the sun is there, career matters, and about bosses, authority figures, or people in power in the career setting. Honestly, with a Mercury square, many of you may be looking in September at leaving or quitting a particular job or career path. Yet you have such support from Pluto in the 5th house to pick up an entrepreneurial direction in your career, to find a path. Now, this is not where Pluto is for the most part, right? Pluto's mostly over here in Aquarius, but he does have a September 1st through to November 19th journey back into your 5th house. And so there's a big question at heart here. Do you want to be more powered up in things that bring you joy and enjoyment? I love this energy of an earth trine forming. And if that's the case, you're going to find yourself radically desiring to do creative, entrepreneurial, or self-directed things. And some of you may be squaring off with some kind of reputation, career success that you might be negotiating with because you want more joy authentically than you want more success in the eyes of the world. Don't forget Jupiter is in detriment here. So you might get success at what cost? The cost of too much time in your workplace, for one, or and focused on your work success. Success breeds success, or he who rides a tiger cannot dismount. Your success story may have gotten the better of you. And, for the whole, of Jupiter transiting through the 6th house with Pluto in the 6th, for the general theme, it is about transformational power in work and career matters. But something's going on in September. So pay attention, because Mercury is your guy in the sign of you, and he's telling Jupiter what to do. At the very best, you're negotiating something more successful. At the very worst, you're negotiating your exit strategy in some career path. Or maybe that's at the very best itself as well. Now, everyone, I'm talking for everyone about the November story from November 2nd to January the 8th, and that's because that's going to be a longer narrative of mutual reception in which Mercury in Sagittarius, your 4th house of home, property, and real estate, is in the sign that belongs to Jupiter. Well, he talks to Jupiter in Mercury's sign. That mutual reception is very powerful, and there's a flowing channel of energy between the 4th and the 10th house. I think for some of you, negotiations, contracts, and deals around property, land, and real estate is what this is about. Some of it is rental contracts, because then we will have Pluto back here in your 6th house. So rental contracts, property, and real estate matters, as well as career-related matters, are in the mix between November 2nd and January the 8th, with pivot points November the 17th, December the 4th, and December 26th. It's kind of interesting to me. If I was to bump us forward a bit, and I think, I know where Mars will be in your 12th house at this time, right? So particularly like November the 2nd to December 26th with Mars in your 12th house, some of you might be propelled to travel overseas or have adventures abroad. And Mercury in mutual reception from the 4th house to Jupiter in the 10th can be traveling abroad for work-related reasons, or moving your house for work-related reasons abroad. Themes like that for some of you Virgos look like they're in play at this time. And again, November 2nd to January the 8th. And certainly with the North Node in the 8th house of chunky money, a lot of you are quite capable, and during the November to January time period, of selling a real estate or buying a property, but maybe also more with a focus of Mercury marketing and merchandising, selling a property if you have a property to sell, or acquiring a rental property or renting a property out. And all these things are very important to you in a way that bring greater luck and auspicious direction in your career as well, November 2nd to January the 8th. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. You are one of the signs that's going to benefit greatly from Jupiter moving through your ninth house of God. This is going to open you up to doorways of new understanding about your spiritual faith. Publications, broadcasting, and book publishing are going to be favored as Jupiter moves through your ninth house. So will court and legal matters. This story is ongoing between the 25th of May and all the way through until the June of next year, June the 9th. And I would say to you that this Jupiter expands and grows and, moves your spiritual life into a new level of importance to you. But a lot of you may just want to study or learn something during this transit. Compare it to June the 30th to July 12th, or of 2000 to 2001, or June of 2012 to June of 2013 to get a vibe of how this has happened before. This time you've got participation from Pluto, and that's Pluto will be in Aquarius for most of that, and that's aligning you with the potential for a deep expansion of joy and purpose and dharma, but also children and grandchildren stories premium plus. You may be powerfully aligned with the idea of having grandchildren, or your children will be powerfully important to you if you have them during this transit. Jupiter and the joy factor, Pluto in your fifth house, mean you're looking for more joyful engagement in matters of spiritual and dharmic questing. You want to be on purpose, but you also want to be powerfully inspired. And that element of being on purpose and powerfully inspired may require education, book publishing, broadcasting, directions, or finding yourself a guide, mentor, spiritual teacher during the transit of Jupiter through the house of God. He's like a preacher on a pulpit up here. And who's the preacher? Who's the one you're following? Is it just a teacher? Is it a university or college you're applying to or going to? Is it a spiritual guide? Let me know. And you want to find your more spiritual path because you've got the South Node in the house of you. This is making you feel more spiritually inclined, like it or not. You're trying to go deeper into your own soul and find a surrendered space within. And Jupiter in his transit through your ninth house helps you increase that as well. Now, you're one of the signs that gets that really sweet glow up because Jupiter will move through the sign of you, and the dates of Jupiter moving through the sign of you, though it matters, is around October the 8th, when Jupiter will be in your first house, not Jupiter, Mercury, the Lord of where Jupiter's traveling, will be in your first house, flowing in a beautiful lucky trine to Jupiter himself. October the 8th has a blessed glow up regarding matters to do with universities, colleges, broadcasting, book publishing deals. Mercury, you are the negotiator. You are the deal maker. You are the one doing the job to find what you need and want, as Mercury is helping you communicate, message, email, text message, and get the deal sealed. You are a deal maker when Mercury is in Gemini and Jupiter is receiving instructions from Mercury. What deal are you making? Is it a visa? Is it a foreign travel plan? Is it a commercial or prosperous opportunity in a foreign country? Is it a book publishing deal? Is it a publications arrangement regarding a podcast or a broadcast element to it? I wonder as well that we're also going to talk about this. Everyone experiences November 2nd to January the 8th, the transit of Mercury through the sign of Gemini, which belongs to Jupiter. And therefore, this 2-month transit is important because it's a mutual reception between Jupiter and Mercury, and they must communicate effectively with each other. You could definitely be traveling quite a bit during this journey, or studying or teaching or learning or publishing or writing during November 2nd to January the 8th with a great deal of flow and success. And you do have some support from Venus. So if it is about travel, it could also be travel involving art, beauty, women, and also perhaps siblings, especially younger. And these stories really light up for you November 2nd to January the 8th. But there are turning points on the following dates. Pay attention to November 17th, December 4th, and December 26th, when there is a direct, retrograde, and direct exact opposition, right? Exact between Mercury and Jupiter. These are major turning point matters. And if you're having to deal with legal or court matters or visa matters or passport stuff or travel stuff, these are going to be big on your radar all the way through the fall, indeed, all of November and December. But this mutual reception of Mercury in the 3rd and Jupiter in the 9th flow to you in what forms a wedge to yourself, to your sun, to your moon, or to your Libra rising energy. And that means that for the most part, this is a positive time. It will feel sometimes difficult with the tension that is formed in the sky by the opposition, but the mutual reception gives it a magical edge of flow. And therefore, I'd say that you're finding it a little bit challenging, but mostly positive and exciting between November the 2nd and January the 8th. Go look to my other video that's a bit longer, perhaps, delineating bountiful Jupiter and Gemini, where I talk more about the impact of Pluto in the chart for you. But a reminder, I mean, with Pluto in the 5th house, your creativity, entrepreneurship, and your inspiration for life need to be powered up. And Jupiter says, let's find it in the house of God. Let's find it in the house of higher education, wisdom, and knowledge. Let's find it in the foreign places and foreign travel. And let's find it in the publishings of books or broadcasting of things that you have created. Alrighty. And certainly I'd say holy travel opportunities, November 2nd to January the 8th. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign, the journey of Jupiter moving through the sign of Gemini from January 25th of this year to June of next year is something that you have had before. You can most recently go back to your memories of June of 2000 to July of 2001, or June of 2012 to June of 2013, as it applies to matters to do with chunky money, including inheritance money. Many of you can go back and probably see that you got family of origin inheritances, perhaps, or your spouse did, or that you got some kind of weird, unexpected, unearned income coming to you. I don't know. Massive tax rebates, insurance payouts, severance packages, the stock investment that took off. Refinances, bank loans, mortgages, banking monies are here, and Jupiter is expanding them. There may be a cost. He isn't his detriment, but he is still Jupiter. And this time he's got power from Pluto like he did not have ever before. Pluto in the 4th house can give you massive gains to do with property, land, and real estate, as well as money from mom or dad. And this storyline is going to also include inheritances for some of you. As this transit happens of Jupiter in your chunky money house, you also have the element that is important here, which is that you will experience, as we all will, a period between November 2nd and January the 8th in which Mercury, the lord of the sign of Gemini, is moving through the 2nd house, which belongs to Jupiter. And we call that a mutual house sitting or reception. And that gives this opposition something magical. And it is for you about money matters, Scorpio. You will, between November 2nd and January 8th, be dealing up a huge amount of storylines around financial matters, banking, mortgages, home buying and selling, or rental and tenancy matters, or things to do with unearned income, such as inheritance monies. And with Mercury in the 2nd house, it could be very much about the negotiation, especially verbally, of financial matters to do with shared resources with your spouse, because you share money with your marriage partner as well, or long-term committed relationship partner. And there's a lot of discussion going on here, November 2nd to January 8th, about those monies. Technically as well, you might consider that with Jupiter going through your 8th house, of things that are often hidden, and Pluto being the god of the underworld, family secrets can be busted out, and secrets about your childhood or growing up or your ancestral line may be emerging and being discovered, researched, or investigated in Mercury between November 2nd and January the 8th. You never know. There's always some family dirt that comes out of the closet at some point. Jupiter expands the house of secrets. Pluto's in the house of the family of origin. Eek! What family secrets are there to emerge? But it will likely be a positive thing because Jupiter is trining Pluto, and you benefit from these secrets. If you're in the market, stock markets, Pluto can be precious metals, gold, silver. Jupiter's expansion and bounty. You may benefit from those types of investments. I am not your financial advisor. Do not take my advice, but the fall could be some prosperity from those kinds of investments for sure. And technically as well, sometimes Jupiter in your 8th house can be money and bounty from a divorce or separation, and the gaining of the assets that belong to your partner in the separation of those assets. And so if that is an issue for you, and with Uranus disrupting your marriage house for the longest while since 2018, And some of you under the aftermath of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, maybe there are, for some of you, separation of marital resources in play during this Jupiter transit for a year. And you might be doing very well, especially when it comes to sharing resources that you have with your partner that involve land and property, and dividing those assets to your benefit, actually. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is a story of Jupiter. Moving through your seventh house, hasn't been in this part of your chart, right? Since June of 2000 to July of 2001. And before that, June of 2000, after that, June of 2012 to June of 2013. So you can go back and try to remember what happened when Jupiter was going through the marriage house, significant others, marketplace, audience, and clients. What was happening then? Business partners. If you were in a relationship back then, you might have gotten married, engaged, moved in together. Jupiter will expand the ground of the relationship. And sometimes if they're troubled relationships, wise endings will occur. Jupiter's back, and single people may meet really important love relationship partners during this transit. Or if you're in a challenging one already, Jupiter may have the wisdom to end it, as it would be a positive wisdom and positive way to close it out. Now, your spouse or your significant other can be very wealthy, happy, prosperous, and lucky during this transit of May 25th to June of next year. And it may be their story, not even yours. So keep it in mind. It is the house of other people. You are one of the signs that has the most intensity during this time of this event, because it's an elemental fire year for Mercury, and he will spend 2 whole months in Sagittarius opposite Jupiter this year. That will be between November 2nd and January the 8th. Mercury is in the house of you. You are making decisions, have ideas, you're communicating, you're email, phone calling, texting, and contractually agreeing, you're negotiating. You are Mercury in the house of his joy for 2 months, all of November and all of December. So, wow. What are you busy doing? Well, for one, you're communicating with Jupiter across the way in a mutual reception. There may be a lot of negotiations with legal contracts, business partners, clients, audience, marketplace members, or your significant other going throughout November 2nd to January the 8th, but it seems to want to work because of that mutual reception. Whether it's legal stuff or whether it's just friendly negotiations, I don't know. Pay attention to November 17th, Act 1, December 4th, Act 2, and December 26th, Act 3. That's direct, retrograde, and direct Mercury engaging Jupiter in your 7th house. Certainly with the Jupiter retrograde on the horizon as well, and Jupiter retrograding in your 7th house can bring back spouses or significant relationships from your past. I don't remember exactly when he retrogrades. I'm trying to remember, but I don't. But Jupiter is retrograding as well, and during some of this. So at the end of the day, a lot of significant other relationships may be back in your story between November 2nd and between November 2nd and January the 8th. So you may be encountering significant others from your past. Now, hang on. When exactly are those retrograde dates for Jupiter? I had them written down. I'm sure of it somewhere. Hang on. Oh, yes. October the 9th, he's retrograding, starting at 21 Gemini. Alrighty. And he goes direct in February, on February the 4th. So certainly with a retrograde Jupiter opposite your Mercury story during this time, you may be really connecting with former spouses, former significant clients, former business partners as well. And there's a lot of conversation, a lot of negotiating, a lot of agreeing and disagreeing. Maybe contractual agreements are being forged as well, because legal vows and contracts, our 7th house matters. Pluto is powering everything up from the 3rd house, which can involve legal matters involving siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, and nieces, legal matters that involve travel, legal matters that involve things to do with writing projects. Certainly that's good for book publishing and broadcasting and writing projects and negotiations. It could be very lucrative and productive for you. November 2nd to January the 8th, with Mercury in the house of you, opposite Jupiter in the house of contracts, connected to Pluto in the house of writing. Okay? It can be very good for social media, broadcast world. If you're on social media platforms, you want to get the word out about something, then you're looking really good with that Pluto flow through the whole of this Jupiter transit and Pluto being a little bit offline. He's going to take a break September, October, November, but then he comes back, and when he comes back, it's all systems go, because as Jupiter is going to be connecting to Pluto in a whole sign flow, social media environments are on the rise for your success, as well as writing projects as well. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. So what we have going on in the sky here, Capricorn, is we have the movement of Jupiter through a part of your sky that has to do with work, that has to do with pets, tendencies and rentals, debts, karmic and real. And Jupiter can expand those things, bigger pets, bigger rentals, bigger debts, but also luck with debt. So maybe eliminating them as well. This is also your work and work routines and your health. This is colleagues and coworkers and all of that. He's here bountifully expanding stuff and giving you some luck between May the 25th and June the 9th next year. And during this journey of Jupiter, you might compare to the past to see how it went before. What was it like in June of 2000 to July of 2001? What was it like in June of 2012 to June of 2013 when you experienced these transits before? Of course, there's a difference, and it is a big one. There is Pluto traveling through your second house. That is about money, wealth, and prosperity and power in your work, in your savings, in your resources, and in your money as it applies to the colleague, coworker, and work stories. So for any Capricorns, this looks like a Jupiter transit that brings you greater financial benefits in the work stories and the money stories. At the same time, though, there is going to be, as Jupiter transits through here, the opportunity for a rental agreement, a bigger property, a larger rental home, if that's something you do, or renting out a property. Tenancies and rentals are here. Pets are here. Some of you may get a very big pet. Trine Pluto. How about a mastiff, during this Jupiter transit? Matters of health should improve as Jupiter moves through your sixth house and solutions are found, and you have luck in that area of your life over the course of this journey of Jupiter in your sixth house. Now, employees, if you are an employer, can expand and you may have a lot of luck finding the perfect employee. Or if you're employed, the boss can really favor you greatly over the course of the months that follow, the year of this transit, actually. What we want to focus on here for you, Capricorn, is specifically, as I'm focusing for a lot of people, is it's an elemental fire year for Mercury, who is the Lord of Gemini. And Mercury will be traveling through your 12th house for a long time, November 2nd through to January the 8th, because of retrogrades. And that's really an important time for you. And it really could turn you around or turn some really important corners for you when it comes to matters to do with foreign people, foreign places, and foreign travel. And it's possible under the influence of this that you may find work abroad, or an international company may be hiring you, or you may be traveling abroad for work. Or you could also look at it as an opportunity for greater financial gain through international borderless income and revenue, should that be a part of the business model you have for a digital world. There's an opportunity here with this mutual reception between Mercury and Jupiter's house and Jupiter and Mercury's house, for some real flow of communication and ease of communication from somebody in a hospital setting, somebody in a prison setting, those are 12th house settings, or even somebody in a foreign and far off place. That benefits you in terms of commercial enterprise and money, because of course, Mercury up here continually flows to Pluto, generally as a theme, although not for some, from November 19th to January the 18th in particular, you're going to have a lot of flow from Lord Mercury to Pluto in Aquarius. So keep that in mind. That's like negotiating money and arrangements around finances as it connects to work and work matters, and perhaps foreign countries and foreign shores. So Capricorn, also, this mutual reception is good for getting rid of those self-undoing bad habits, patterns, and addictions. Pluto is in the house of what you put in your mouth. Mercury is in the house of those addictions and self-undoings and self-sabotaging stories. And you could really break with Jupiter a karmic pattern around an addictive substance, and even indeed perhaps an ancestral pattern. So any of those self-undoings, addictions, and bad habits can completely be left behind as a result of the November 2nd to January 8th transit of Mercury through your 12th house. Look specifically to November 17th, December 4th, and December 26th for major pivot points in all of the stories about the 12th house, 6th house axis that I just discussed with you. Now I'm taking a short break for a little bit of sustenance, and I'll be right back and we'll finish the last two signs. Don't forget, you're in the live premiere, hit the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. Oh my God. Oh, I'm almost done. Okay. Oh. And you guys know I'm traveling the El Camino, right? So I'm front loading all of my content for June in the month of May. It's like unbelievably exhausting. Let me go back to the screen share. I just put a pot of water on the stove and I'm boiling it so I can make some mac and cheese before I teach a Patreon class in about half an hour. Okay. Where were we? Aquarius. We're moving to Aquarius. Well, I don't know why I'm so far along in that story. Okay, just a simple Aquarius delineation here. Jupiter moving through your 5th house is wonderful for money, luck, and speculation, casino gambling and gaming. Know your limit, play within it. Also good for prosperity when it comes to or fertility when it comes to getting pregnant, you or your partner or your children becoming pregnant to make you a grandchild. That is a Jupiter 5th house story. Compare the notes because Jupiter here, May 24th to next June 9th, is back again as he did in the past June of 2000 to July of 2001. June of 2012 to June of 2013. Because I'm an Aquarius rising, I can compare it even to July of 1988 to July of 1989. I got pregnant in July of 1988 and gave birth to my first child. Okay, I got pregnant probably in August of 88 and gave birth to him in 1989. I got pregnant sometime in the fall, early fall of 1988. Jupiter got me pregnant, the great sperminator. So this stuff works. Compare notes, right? So I was lucky in pregnancy. I got a baby. I got my beautiful son, who's now 34. So, or something like that, 35, I don't know, losing track. So with Jupiter here, you're going to be lucky, prosperous, bounteous, and you're going to love the flow back to you. Easy, simple, good energy. It's wonderful for creativity, entrepreneurship, birthing baby businesses, baby projects. Jupiter in Gemini is really lovely for gains from the 4th, which means selling a property or real estate matter. The 4th house gains come from the 5th house, so you could get the money from the sale of the property, for example, if that's something you're doing. Now, energetically, Jupiter here brings more joy to your life. This is a house of joy, pleasure, and fun. This is where he's traveling. You are going to have more joy, expansion of inspiration. What's there to complain about? Nothing. And I think during this Jupiter transit, you're going to feel good. It's a feel-good transit. For the most part, it can increase your vitality as well because there's an energy there about playful, spirited, inspirited life force energy in the 5th house. As he's moving through this part of your chart already, he is also flowing to Pluto, and that's you, powerful, and this is wealthy, and this is intense, but good energy. So it's about achievement, and you have your eye on the ball through the house of joy and enjoyment rather than the sheer work principle, and it's not so shabby after all. Also, the energy here is Jupiter in the 5th house planting a kind of golden egg seed for the work you will do in the year that follows. So there's a lot of goodness in this part of the sky for new beginnings in entrepreneurial and creative projects. What we want to focus on, of course, is we want to make an eyeball the idea that there is the role of Mercury in his elemental fire year playing a significant determining factor as he is the ruler of Gemini. And when he is in opposition to the sky's placement in Sagittarius, November 2nd to January the 8th, he is in a beautiful, hot phone call reception to Jupiter, and they are working together as a team. That means instead of an oppositional detriment, it feels good. They work for each other to the best of their ability. What would that mean? Maybe what would that mean between November 2nd and January the 8th? Well, you're busy as all hell communicating, phone calling or texting or interacting with upper 11th house people, an elder sibling, friends and social community. This can be like the celebrity place, where everyone sees you on the runway of life, on the red carpet rollout, or, up in the top of the sky in front of groups of people, or at events in front of people, or with groups of people. So it's a very social place. It's a very visible place. And Mercury's up there doing a lot of communicating while he flows to you, and he is in a opposition to Jupiter. This kind of creates an energetic wedge, and it's all pointed at you. You are the pivot point for goodness as you maestro something to do with your creative projects, your art projects, your entrepreneurial business projects. Fifth house matters, and the wider world of groups of people, celebrity, but also the greater gains in your career. And technically, Mercury here could be busy commercially expanding or achieving some career success gains through things that are being communicated to a larger group or audience. For example, Mercury in the 11th house is very chatty and social, and you just might be very busy and a very socially engaged, either social media engagement or just social real life engagements during November 2nd, right, until January the 8th. Jupiter will be moving in retrograde motion as well through your 5th house. And so former lovers from the past could be coming out of the woodwork during this transit. But the bigger picture of this is, how is it that you wish November 17th, December 4th, and December 26th to achieve something? That's the 3 passes of Mercury exactly opposite Jupiter, in a way that, although challenging, it is an opposition, is also fruitful. And it brings some money luck to you. And it brings some good fortune to you. And it brings some enterprising success to you in groups of people and the larger social groups of belonging of the 11th house. It may also indicate some successful indications of financial gains in your career, November 2nd to January the 8th. If you're single and Jupiter moves through your 5th house, it is a romance house. And of course, new romance can blossom here. So for you singletons, like this happened, for instance, in 1976 to 1977, August to August. And that was me having a summer romance, my first ever boyfriend summer romance story blossoming. So romantic blossomings happen for you as well. And maybe this oppositional energy of Mercury is you're being extremely social and very engaged with groups of activity with a new romantic partner, or with an existing romance blossoming into a lot more social engagement November 2nd to January the 8th. But I mean, you can't underestimate the power of Jupiter in the 5th house to bring some money fortune as well, good fortune through unexpected, or not unexpected, through lucky breaks, right? Winning a raffle, winning a bingo, getting the jackpot at the casino, having a lottery ticket pay off. So these kinds of stories are ongoing during the entirety of the year. Let's see how the fall looks with that mutual reception from the 11th house, because 11th house is pennies from heaven and windfalls, and Mercury can rule games of chance. So and it's his house. So if maybe there's also the possession of gains of unexpected financial gains, exciting financial gains, right? You did have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 4th house. Those gains would involve property, land, home, and real estate matters as well. Okay, and anything else I would say here for us Aquarians? Probably not. Jupiter is the ruler of your 2nd house of resources. So any kind of exciting, prosperous bounty gains he'll give you, he does want to increase your savings in your bank account for sure during this transit over the course of a year. At what cost, right? At what cost? Jupiter is in a house of Gemini, which is about the 2 things, the 2 people, the 2 twins, maybe divided time because your children exist here as well. Your children will be lucky. I should have said that as well. I mean, this gives your children fertility and your children luck as well to have Jupiter here. So existing children have collateral benefits from this transit, and you find more joyful connection with your existing children. All right, finally, we get to Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. And here we have a story of Jupiter. And you get to have a special dispensation from Lord Mercury. As I mentioned, some signs did. Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Sag, Aries, and Pisces. You're the signs that get extra special juice from Lord Mercury. Lord Mercury moving through the sign of you. Let's get this all broken down. Number 1, basic 101. Jupiter is trying to expand homeland, property, real estate matters, including legacy wealth and inheritance monies, as he moves through your 4th house, and he will be here on the 25th of May. through to June of next year. This is just like when? Just like June of 2000 to July of 2001, June of 2012 to June of 2013. Yet it's different because Pluto lends a big, powerful ally support coming through the sky. Pluto is powering up good energy for this time for you in a new way. And that's Pluto up here in the 12th house. Powerful ability to really undo your really transform your addictions and bad habits, but also to completely spiritually awaken and also dispossess yourself from ancestral curses and family of origin and childhood junk that held you back. That's a big part of what's going on here for this year ahead as Jupiter transits through that 4th house. But you can also get great wealth and generated from foreign lands, foreign shores, from things you're doing in and from your home to prosper in the next year ahead. Jupiter here is also in a place where he can mean that you are going to be joyful, bounteous, prosperous, and lucky in and from your home. Or for some of you, a guru or spiritual teacher comes and lives with you and visits you in your home during the year ahead. With this energy of Mercury moving in the sign of Pisces. Oh, this is so sweet. Mercury in your sign flows to Jupiter in your 4th house. This is occurring but once, and the date is February 20th of 25. And that's going to be a really sweet spot where you can negotiate, speak, deal make, or ideate something into being regarding home, property, land, real estate, and legal contracts. So selling a house, buying a house, renting a house, I don't know. Those stories are looking strong for you. Again, February the 20th, 2025. And don't forget, Jupiter has to take orders from Mercury. So this is why it's so powerful. Mercury is the boss of him. And you are acting like Mercury. And you have a lot of big wishes and hopes. And Mercury is in detriment here. That's true. But he's still the boss of Jupiter. You have to be careful here a little bit that you don't overstate something, that you're not a little bit of a confabulator in your own way of communicating and negotiating. But it is good for property, land, home, and real estate matters around November 20th. Finally, I would say everyone's dealing with this, and here comes your story. Jupiter is moving through your 4th house. Well, Mercury will be November the 2nd to January the 8th at the top of the sky in your 10th house of career. This is simply going to be interesting because it's like you may be busy negotiating, communicating, marketing, and selling, or doing something very good in the career space because that's what Mercury's busy doing. And then Jupiter's busy in the home, and they have a mutual phone call reception to each other in each other's houses. It's like things you're doing in the career benefit you in the home. Things you do in the home benefit you in the career. There's a divine mutual flow between home and career matters. Mercury can be negotiating new home contracts and new property contracts. Jupiter can be expanding your property. Mercury could be acting like the boss, and you get a new raise or promotion. At the same time, you're expanding your prosperity in your home. All of this is November 2nd to January the 8th. It looks like a very intense time because it always, anytime things happen in 410, square the house of you, square the house of your significant other. So it's intense but positive energy. Certainly a Jupiter square to the descendant and a Mercury square to the descendant can be a breaking, a fracturing of a contract or agreement legally to do with home and property or long-term committed love stories. Be aware of that. But with Jupiter being the benefic, the greater benefic, and in a mutual reception to Mercury, it mitigates the opposition and the debility. So some of you may be facing endings and significant love relationships. Don't forget, in January, the South Node will move into the house of your long-term committed love stories, and that will be very depleting and challenging in 2025 of that major relationship. And the buildup before that, November 2nd to January the 8th, is all of this tension, but also positivity between career and home matters, squaring the house of a significant long-term committed love story. So it is tension there as well, but you're doing something prosperous and bountiful, expanding your home, having good things happen in your career. So let's see how that plays out. Let me know. I really want to hear back. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification. And that helps this channel thrive. That helps me grow. It helps me want to do this job and to be a part of Team YouTube and you. Now, people are waiting in the message all. Class starts in 20 minutes. Okay, I'm just telling them class doesn't start for 20 minutes and I'm going to stop the recording and I'll be right back. Oh, I won't. I'll see them. I won't see you guys. Bye-bye. Oh, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and in the description box below is my Patreon community information and my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter. Check it all below so that you know all of the things you can do with me. Take my Sky Reader class in the fall, starting in September. In the description box below is the wait list to get into that class. Everything about me is in the description box below.